Brew Strong is brought to you by Blickman Engineering, home of the top-tier brewing stand. Visit them online at blickmanengineering.com.
It's time for the beer radio you've been looking for. This is the show that dispels myths, tackles the toughest topics, and makes no apologies for geeking out on beer. Hosted by two guys that drink before they think. Jamil and John Palmer. This is Brew Strong.
Hey, howdy. Hey, my brewing brothers and sisters.
Greetings. I'm having a drink.
You're having a drink. He's finally drinking. It's afternoon.
Yeah, that's right.
He's finally drinking. Now. He's put the calculator down. Now he's drinking. He's got a ways to go to catch up with me. I'm just saying. I'm a professional. I don't know if you know that. But
I've heard that many times.
There you go.
That Jamil, he's a professional.
Yeah, I don't know who says that, but I like to think I am.
But do they say it like this? Like, that's Jamil? Yeah, he's a real professional.
Yeah? What's wrong with that?
Nothing.
That sounds right.
Yeah, it is.
I usually hear, like, you should be like Jamil. He's a professional. You know, my mom.
He's a professional? Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Speaking of professionals, how about that John Blickman?
Hey, now there's a professional guy.
Professional what? I don't know. But he's professional at making incredible pieces of brewing equipment. Yeah.
He is.
Very, very creative and innovative and a heck of a guy. So a lot of fun to work with, and I'm so glad that he sponsors this show.
Yep.
He's paying for the show, so you don't have to.
Right.
Which is a great thing.
Yeah, bringing you all this fine brewing information.
Yep, there you go. So if you appreciate that, if you appreciate not having to pay for the show, I would suggest going to blickmanengineering.com, Blickman with two N's, and sending them an email and saying, hey, John at blickmanengineering.com, say, hey, John, thank you for sponsoring the show. I really enjoy the show. I get a lot from it, or these two are idiots, and why are you sponsoring it? Whatever you want to send him, just so he knows you're listening. And,
he appreciates that.
Yeah, he does. He's part of the community, so he enjoys it. Make sure you tell him you enjoy it, and while you're there, take a look at the cool stuff they have on their website, or make sure to see him at NHC this year. I'm sure they'll be there.
Have a lot of interesting equipment there, I'm sure. They always come up with something new.
Do we have a remote from Blickman Engineering coming up here this year? Is that going to happen?
I think we're negotiating.
We're negotiating.
Yeah, we're trying to make it happen.
My people are talking to his people. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
That's all I can say right now.
Hey, what if you don't appreciate the fact that this show is free? What if you wish to pay for it?
Well,
go to the Brewing Network store, then I would say.
I'd say make the checkout to cash and send it to me. I'll take care. I'll make sure it gets to the right place. Don't worry.
Heretic Brewing's CO Jamil Zainashev?
Yes. Yeah, that sounds good.
Make it out to cash.
Absolutely. All right. Speaking of cash, today, what kind of transition? Speaking of cash, we're talking about how to cash in on great starters. Oh, yeah!
There you go.
We're talking cash in on great starters. We get a lot of questions about starters. We've done a show on starters, but the questions keep rolling in. So we've gathered those questions together. You can always send your questions into the Brew Strong at thebrewingnetwork.com, and we'll add those into shows, or we'll make whole shows at them. That's where we get a lot of our ideas, because we're quite lazy. And if you do the thinking for us, we will do the answering. So there you go.
That's right. So we like hearing from you.
Yeah, we got a good deal of great questions, I'm sure.
But keep the word small, because Scott's got to read them.
Right. And limit yourself to one question per email, because when you put like 6 in there, we're just like confused.
Yeah.
Especially when they're on different topics. Just, start
we just try to organize them into specific days.
Yes.
For your
we like
pleasure.
topics that kind of go together.
Yep.
That's what we're trying to do now. Anyways. All right. Well, let's do this. Let's take a very quick break. And when we come back, Scott will be ready to read the first question. So we'll be back right after this.
When you hear Blickman Engineering, think innovation, passion, quality, and customer service. Blickman gear is designed by brewers to give you a sense of pride in your equipment. At Blickman, they know what makes brewing a pain and build gear that makes it fun. Like the intuitive beer gun, a completely different approach to filling bottles. The Therminator Wort Chiller, a new take on a plate chiller that's sized for flow, performance, and the high groundwater temps homebrewers face every day. The Brewmometer, a brilliant weldless thermometer design with brewing parameters right on the dial. The Auto Sparge, ultimate simplicity for preventing an overflow or running your mash tun dry. And much more, like the modular top-tier brewing stand, conical fermenters, and their Boilermaker brew pots. With more cutting-edge equipment coming soon, keep up with the latest from Blickman at blickmanengineering.com and stay on the cutting edge. Since the first time the Brewing Network microphones turned on, More Beer was behind it. More Beer sponsors the programming on the BN because, like you, they love brewing. And like the Brewing Network, they love sharing their knowledge. Morebeer.com isn't just a website to place your next equipment or ingredient order. Morebeer.com also gives you access to free beer information that will make you a better brewer. Go to morebeer.com and click into the Learning Center. You'll find podcasts, technical facts, video tutorials, and more, including access to The Buzz, More Beer's social network of more than 5,000 members. And some of them might even be crazier about beer than you are. Get over to morebeer.com today and take advantage of The Buzz, the forum, the Learning Center, and make sure you're signed up to receive the newest More Beer catalog. More Beer, bringing you absolutely everything for beer making.
When I order a beer, I want my server to know more about it than I do. I want someone who enjoys good beer and loves helping others enjoy it too. I want someone who knows how to pour a perfect pint for any beer style. I want a Cicerone. The Cicerone certification program is creating the type of people who help you enjoy great beer. Home brewers and craft beer lovers know beer is more flavorful and complex than ever, and it takes some serious knowledge to store and serve beer right. Cicerones know beer. There are 3 levels in the Cicerone program: Certified Beer Server, Certified Cicerone, and Master Cicerone. Cicerones are truly the sommeliers of beer. The best beer locations have a certified Cicerone on staff. Relaxed and unpretentious, Cicerones are tested on storing and serving beer, beer styles, flavor and tasting, the brewing process and ingredients, and pairing food with beer. Learn more about your next beer guide at cicerone.org. Certified Cicerone, because it takes top talent to present a perfect pint.
All right, BN Army, it's trivia time. What's the only homebrew shop with over 1,000 recipe kits, $4.99 shipping on orders over $100, and is also home of the Wolf shirt? The one and only answer is Austin Homebrew Supply. For over 20 years, they've specialized in creating recipes such as the best-selling Texas Blonde Ale, Apocalypso, Hop Bomb 2.0, and Double Chocolate Stout. And they just recently unveiled their small grain kits that produce 1 gallon of beer. Visit AustinHomebrew.com to browse their extensive catalog of equipment and ingredients. They also have mini clone recipes of your favorite commercial beers. They're the exclusive retailer of BrewVent yeast fuel as well, Yeast Nutrient, and the all-new Bodybuilder. Follow Austin Homebrew Supply on Google Plus to participate in video hangouts on popular brewing topics. So visit AustinHomebrew.com today and make sure you sign up for their weekly email with news and specials. Austin Homebrew Supply, AustinHomebrew.com.
Back to the 2 guys that know how to turn beer into beer. This is Brew Strong.
All right, we're back. What we talked about during that break, we talked about getting internet service from various providers.
Yep. For the new, what's that place going to be called?
The Hop Grenade.
Hop Grenade.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
We talked about, what else? We talked about something else.
Oh, well, the AHA rally at Heretic coming up.
rally at Heretic coming. That's absolutely all right. I keep neglecting to mention that on these shows. We've got AHA rally coming out. Heretic, April 26th. It's a Saturday from 1 to 4. If you're an AHA member, you're getting in for free. If you're not an AHA member, you can just show up, and then you can sign up there at the door. They'll take
Excellent
you in
time
there.
to join, yeah.
And then you get a year of Zymergy magazine. You get the pub discount program. You get the all the other stuff with the conference and all that. And we're going to provide a couple of pints of beer for free.
Cool.
John Palmer's going to be there.
John Palmer will be there, yes.
Jamil Zainashev's going to be there.
Jamil's going to be there. That's going to be awesome.
We're going to, for the first 150 people, they're going to get a free 5-star cleaning kit.
Oh,
they're
nice.
going to get 5 gallons of wort for free.
Whoa.
They're going to get a vial of White Labs to pitch in that wort.
Whoa.
So you can make like beer for free. You
Nice.
just need to bring a container. And then there's other giveaways, and they're going to have all sorts of raffles and shirts and all sorts of stuff. It's going to be a good old time.
That
You're going
will
to have
be
some
nice.
food trucks there. You're going to be able to like crawl around the brewery.
Right.
It's going to be quite enjoyable.
Take pictures with Warren's beard, perhaps?
Right.
Yeah.
You can smear that all over your face. You can maybe we harvested something from Warren's beard.
Ah.
And we've been growing it up. And we're not sure bacteria, yeast. So we got some differential plates to use to figure that out. But we've been growing it up, and people think it's disgusting. It's like, well, when you grow something up from a single cell, there's no contamination whatsoever. There is nothing in there that is like Warren's beard. It is the cell that had landed on there. And so,
Cal Ale yeast. all the
believe
way.
me,
Yeah.
I'm very OCD and anal about cleanliness and all that, and I would not want to touch Warren's beard. But the cells that have been plated out, streaked and plated out, that's pure. There's nothing in there from Warren's
No
beard
contamination.
other than what had landed on there.
So it could have been like a furnace filter that this was harvested from.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It could have been a sterile, polyester filter that, this had landed on, and we were,
It just
growing
happened to be one that Warren was carrying around.
Right, exactly. It could have been, from people's shirts to the top of their head, whatever. Doesn't really matter. So it's pure, it's clean. And I think, that people don't realize that. Just
Yep.
Justin said he wishes you would tent and spray the place.
yeah, right, there you go. No, please. Our place is, we've got one of the cleanest breweries around. I don't know.
Well, you did.
I'm very, very pleased.
Yeah.
Well, I'm guessing it's like a Budweiser yeast here that's in his beard. He did go on the tour. I think that's where it came from.
That could be.
All right. Well, you want to do some starter questions here?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
First one's from Luke Snyder. He said, hey, guys, can you discuss the difference between yeast nutrient and yeast energizer? What are the uses for each?
Well, a lot of it is,
Semantics.
based on what the manufacturer says. Oh, I've got energizer. I've got nutrient.
Mm-hmm.
But that being the case, I would think generally when people are talking nutrient, they're talking like yeast hulls. They're talking,
Biotin, vitamins.
things like that. And when they're talking energizer, they're probably talking about diammonium phosphate. They're talking
Right.
about, things like that.
Fan.
Free amino nitrogen. They're talking about, stuff that is more
Yeast fertilizer.
food.
Yeah.
Fertilizer. And more beer, they used to call theirs yeast fertilizer.
Interesting. Yeah.
And I told them, I said, don't call it fertilizer. And maybe they still do. I said, don't call it fertilizer. People look at fertilizer as poo
True.
that you're
Yeah.
throwing on something. So don't call it fertilizer.
Especially here
call
in
it something
California.
else.
Yeah.
And so I think they still call it fertilizer. They listen to me. And I'm like, don't call it fertilizer. People won't buy that. But yeah, I would think the Energizer is more fertilizer. And, the
Nutrient is more
nutrient is more
multivitamin
Yes.
protein stuff.
There you go. And there's no guarantees of that. Make sure, find out what's in it.
Yeah, there's no accepted definition, so it's whatever the manufacturer says it's going to be.
Yep.
I just want to show you guys
That's a good question, though.
this question before I start reading it. We have a whole page here, so I'll try to be concise.
Yeah, I did not vet any of it. This was this morning.
I'll just get comfortable here and while you rattle that off.
Our email
right.
screener is
And again,
on vacation.
one question per email.
Right.
Keep them to a paragraph.
Let's see if this is Jeremiah Hansen. He said, "Hey guys, I'm fairly new to home brewing, and I have a good fortune to have a single barrel all grain system. I've been. Let's see if I can actually find a question on here. Okay, here's the questions. Can I use a stir plate for starter use of this size?"
Oh, he was talking about doing a 1-barrel starter for a 1-barrel batch.
A starter for a 1-barrel batch.
Right.
Okay.
Well, and your stir plate and your starter size can be anything. Doc is famous for his 5-gallon carboy stir plate starters.
Yeah.
And a 5-liter Erlenmeyer is actually fairly easy to find. Again, More Beer carries them.
Those are nice size.
And you could throw that on a stir plate. So I mean that's depending on what kind of beer you're brewing in a barrel size. Yeah. You should be able to
one thing about stir plates and the stir bars, you don't need a bigger stir bar for a bigger starter. A small stir bar, an inch long, 2 inches long, is plenty.
Is that what she
big.
told you?
Yeah. That will get the vortex going. You don't need the 4-inch stir bar that's a half an inch thick.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're saying it's the motion of the stir bar, not the size of the stir bar.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
The motion, stirring will happen.
Why do they have different sizes of stir bars then?
I don't know. Maybe to appeal to men. Yeah. But certainly, I mean, even doing large, 1-gallon, 2-gallon starters, a smaller stir bar actually worked just as well for creating the vortex and the wort as the large one.
Eventually. It takes a little longer to get, I think, and
to
it
come up
depends
to
on
speed. But
eventually the motion of the wort in the center will eventually translate out to the outsides of the starter.
Yeah.
Eventually it all takes
But I
place.
burned out a stir plate trying putting too large a stir bar on top of it.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it overheated. It don't know why it makes so much difference, but it did.
Interesting. Yeah, I wonder why they well, but I could imagine, for varying viscosities and speeds, lower speed, the shear force when you get too high a speed can damage some cells, I would imagine.
Yeah.
If you're, in between there and really super high speed in order to, get something stirring. But, when I see people doing starters and stir plates, they tend to run those things at insane speeds.
Oh,
and it's like the devil's vortex going down into the ocean.
This is not a blender, folks.
Right, it's not a blender. You're not making margaritas here.
Yeah.
You're just you need to
get a little bit of motion going
right.
on.
You're just trying to mix things up. I think you'd be all right. And all right, so you want 1 barrel. Can you use a stir plate? Yes. Should you use a stir plate? Yes. What size should it be, Mr. Multi-Calculator?
Okay, he also wants to know, does he really need 3 packs of yeast? What would happen if he just uses 1?
You could use 1 and grow it up in stages if it's not enough. It's just, if you want 1 step to get to enough, then, maybe you need 3. If you're using the Mr. Multi-Calculator as a gross slider, you can use that slider to any value that it shows you is valid. So you could move it all the way to get more growth and use less packs, and that's still valid.
Okay, one last follow-up from this guy. He said, what growth factor should I use?
Anything that the calculator will allow you is valid.
Check out that calculator.
It just depends on if you want to use more packs or not.
MrMulti.com.
It affects the volume. So if you've got a smaller vessel, you use less packs so you can kind of get it done, or you can use more fewer packs and just grow more. And you end up at some point like brewing a 5-gallon batch of beer. So, and that's fine too. You could do that, a lower gravity 5-gallon batch of beer.
Okay, here's one from Christopher Owen. He said, in your episodes on enzymes, you talk about protein rest with highly modified malts. Specifically, when using a highly modified malt, it is best to avoid a protein rest or keep the protein rest to just a short period of time. The rationale that you gave said that since the malts were already so highly modified, a protein rest would only further degrade proteins, thereby breaking down head-forming proteins into peptides and free amino nitrogen. So he said, I'm curious if we could use this to our advantage in making our own yeast nutrient from malt. If I took a cup or two of grist and held it at an extended protein rest as I'm heating up my mash water, can I effectively break down the proteins in the malt all the way to amino acids and essentially provide the equivalent free amino nitrogen of a commercial yeast nutrient?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. It's how are you going to measure your results, really? But, I mean, it's almost easier just to order a packet of yeast nutrient rather than, trying to...
and, and the thing is concentration. So in that liquid, what concentration do you have versus if you take a dried, nutrient and add that to a liquid? I mean, you can get to a level that's much higher. So, yeah.
He said,
interesting thought, though.
He said
somebody who actually thinks while he drinks or something. I don't know.
He said, additionally, will this break down proteins to the point that they release their mineral cofactors like zinc and make it available to yeast later during fermentation?
No.
Yeah, but there is some zinc, that comes from the malts that is available.
Right, but it's a very small amount. I mean,
right, but isn't that based off of the ratio of weight by weight? It's minimal.
But on the other hand, we don't know. I don't think we know how that zinc is bound. Mm-hmm. So whether proteolysis will release it,
right?
I have no idea.
Saccharomyces that is supposedly a bioavailable zinc for something like that.
Yeah,
that's interesting. It's interesting to think. I think the answer is still just go buy some nutrient and use that.
Yeah.
But I think the listener is on to something there and has an interesting thought process, because there are a lot of we talked about the minerals and nutrients that do come from malt and do come from different growing regions, and sometimes and seasons and soils, and when you use a malt. Sometimes it's like, there's a problem. It's like, well, there wasn't enough of a certain nutrient, for where that was grown. It varies. And that's one of the reasons why you use these nutrients, just to ensure that there is enough available of something like that.
That's right. Yeah.
But it's got to be available in one way or another.
Yeah. I don't know what compounds it's bound up with. I don't know how the yeast actually make it available to themselves. What kind of enzymes they use. I don't think, though, that the enzymes in malt, the proteolysis, the proteases would necessarily free it up to make it advantageous to the brewer, even with extended mashing. So.
All right, here's John from Hackensack, New Jersey. Said, I recently started crushing my own grain and unexpectedly jumped from 65% to about 78% efficiency. I was brewing your German pills from Brewing Classic Styles when this happened, and the jump in efficiency took me from 1048 to about 1055 OG. I had already made my yeast starter based on your pitching rate calculator, and he had it in the fridge ready to decant once the wort was cooled. He said, I always chill to 44 degrees and pitch cold as you recommend. The question is there a way to make up for the jump in efficiency in regards to the amount of yeast needed to pitch? Well,
grow more yeast, but I would, the thing is, if it's, chilled in the fridge and you're decanting off the spent wort, what I would do is morning of, your brew day, I would add some more starter wort to it and get it active and going, and I think you'd be fine. Yeah. Especially, given those numbers, I think you'd
and have 44 to 55 is not that drastic a jump.
And even if you didn't do that, I think you'd just toss it in and you'd be good to go.
In a lager, though, isn't that a big jump for a lager?
It's borderline, but it's not. We're not talking 65.
It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
And I think if you just added starter wort to that, decanted, yeast cake, you'd be good.
Mm-hmm. What about pitching a little warmer? Don't want to do that?
No.
I'm not a fan of that. Yeah. All right. Let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll have more of your questions and more of our answers.
Right after this.
Right after this.
A few things happened 30 years ago. ARPANET migrated to TCP/IP, and the Internet was born. Revenge of the Jedi was renamed Return of the Jedi and opened in theaters. Mila Kunis and Emily Blunt were born, beginning a rad fantasy in my mind. But all of that pales next to the fact that HopTech opened its doors and began blowing homebrewers right out of their mash tuns. HopTech doesn't fuck around. Real people shipping awesome shit straight to you. Their new website is fast and easy to navigate. Or just call 800-379-4677 and let badass bitch Jade and Bruin brother Roberto blow their warm load of customer service all over you. So visit the site or visit the store in Dublin, California and support those that support you. Get your brewing on at hoptech.com.
Downtown Joe's, where everyone is welcome, especially if you like drinking and tasting beer. Head brewer Colin Kaminsky's favorite beers are the Tantric IPA and the Double Secret Probation IPA. But you'll have loads of others to choose from when you redeem your exclusive Brewing Network savings. Downtown Joe's is the best brewery destination and the hottest night spot in Napa. Colin invites all homebrewers and fans of craft beer to stop by and enjoy the great food and beer. Whether you're in the mood for riverside dining, live music, or just hanging out at the bar to meet a person of the opposite sex or a person of the same sex, Downtown Joe's has exactly what you're looking for. And now just mention the Brewing Network to receive $1 off your beer at Downtown Joe's. That's right, take $1 off every one of their great selection of craft beers, including the Lazy Summer Wheat, Golden Thistle Porter, and the Triple Dog Dare You. Come to Downtown Joe's and enjoy the laid-back atmosphere of Napa's best brew pub. Visit downtownjoes.com right now for current beers, the live music schedule, or to drool over their delicious menu items. Downtown Joe's, your neighborhood brew pub where everyone is welcome.
Nico, listen, our lawyers said that we had to do this for 1 hour, and after this, we don't have to talk to each other for 3 more months to the next meeting.
Kids, come on, let's get out of here.
I'm supposed to have more lines. I'm the professional. Hey, it's Sully.
And I'm Nico.
And we opened the 21st Amendment 9 years ago at 563 2nd Street in San Francisco, just 2 blocks from Giants Park, to make great beer and have a great time doing it.
That's right, because to us, the 21st Amendment is more than just the right to make beer. It's the right to experiment, to be innovative, and just do things differently. And so now, we're putting our craft beer in cans.
That's right, cans. You can find our world-famous Hell or High Watermelon Wheat Beer and Brew Free or Die IPA throughout California and Alaska.
And now it's also available on draft at select accounts in the Bay Area.
So next time you're at your local neighborhood pub or good beer store, be sure to ask for 21st Amendment in cans.
Because everyone likes it in the can.
Tasty crack cans.
Tasty crack cans.
Hey, my brewing brothers and sisters. This is Jamel Zainashev, and I want to tell you about Heretic Evil Twin. You might be familiar with my homebrew recipe, which uses massive late hopping to create a balance between the malty sweet and the hoppy bitter, along with an outrageous malt and hop character. I wanted a beer with the same bold hop and malt character, so we played around with the homebrew recipe until we were able to make a great commercial version too. We've created a beer rich in malt character, full of caramel, toast, biscuit, and an ever so subtle roast note. On top of that, we piled in an insane amount of Citra and Columbus hops at the end of the boil, as well as in dry hopping. This damn-the-cost approach to hopping gives Heretic's Evil Twin a great blast of citrus and tropical fruit that can't be matched by any other hop. The result is a bold, malty, hoppy, but easy-drinking beer. This is our top seller, our flagship beer, and I couldn't be prouder of it. Cheers.
To find Heretic beers near you, click on Find Some at hereticbrewing.com. Williams Brewing announces their first customer recipe issue since 1991. This free 64-page catalog includes 27 of the best homebrewing recipes submitted by their regular customers. Best of all, this paper-only catalog is free for the asking. Just go to williamsbrewing.com and click on the free customer recipe issue link. This offer expires October 18th. While you are on the site, check out some of the latest exclusives like the Williams Oatmeal Stout Malt Extract, the Big Oxygen System, and they even have their own line of precision hydrometers. Go to williamsbrewing.com to browse their vast selection and enjoy their famous customer service. That's williamsbrewing.com. Orders placed by 4 p.m. Pacific Time weekdays ship the same day. Brewing is easy the Williams way.
like the Lance Armstrong of the beer world. Except for that nut thing. This is Brew Strong.
All right. During the break, we played What's Worse, Jew or Ginger?
Not a very fun game.
We talked about contractors. We talked about what else did we talk about? I don't know. I'm losing track.
Slabs.
Slabs. We talked about slabs. Oh yeah. And I'll tell you, if you've got a slab, you got a big slab. You need some help with that.
AdamandEve.com.
AdamandEve.com. Absolutely. Well, you know what's the kind of things you would buy for your slab there, Scott? What would you look for at AdamandEve.com to treat your slab?
A grinder and a polisher, sure.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
You've got an uneven slab, I heard.
Yeah. Oh well, it depends on the day. Maybe a trowel, like a notched trowel.
A notched trowel.
Yeah. I don't know what more you would need.
You're going to lay some adhesive on that.
Describe my wife
slab
that way.
here?
Yeah. Epoxy the corners.
Oh yeah, you would. All right. So if you're going to epoxy your corners, what you do is go over to AdamandEve.com and you're going to find your notch trowel. Mm-hmm. You're gonna buy your notch trowel. You can get 50% off of that notch trowel. Right? That's all you have to spend. That 50% off of almost any one item.
Right.
And they get a lot of items, and they got good pricing, so you're getting it at half price. They just want to get you as a customer, because once you experience their customer service and their quality, you're gonna keep buying from them. So you buy that one thing 50% off, and then that's all the money you spend. Use the offer code Jamil, Jamil.
They're probably going to yank that at some point.
Pardon me. Use the offer code Jamil, Jamil. You're going to get, in addition to the 50% off the one item, you're going to get 3 free adult DVDs. You get to choose from genres such as anal, amateur, Asian, big breast, big butt, bisexual, chunky, co-ed, fetish, gay, interactive, POV, lesbian, MILFs, etc.
And trowels.
Then you're going to get a free extra gift, so essential I can't mention it, and you're going to get free shipping.
Ooh, yep.
So like I said, you spent 50% off of an item, 50% of the price of an item, and you get all this other stuff, and it's shipped to you for free. You can't beat this deal.
Yeah.
Go to AdamandEve.com. You can even do it from your mobile phone, AdamandEve.com. Use the offer code Jamil, Jamil, at AdamandEve.com. You'll be blown away. If you have any need for adult entertainment type of stuff, no matter who you're with.
There you
go. Doesn't matter your situation.
Jamil will get you there.
Absolutely. Use the offer code Jamil, Jamil, and you're gonna enjoy with your special someone.
Next time, try and give it like a 2 Mississippi in between blown and away. You're gonna be blown away like that.
There you go. All
right. The next one is from Mark in Colorado. He said, howdy guys, I'm a frequent, as in weekly, brewer.
You could use freak.
Yeah, I should have paused. I'm sorry. He's a Homebrew Club board member as well. He said, one particular step in the process I don't care for is creating yeast starters. He said he brews a 10-gallon batch of typically 1060 to 1075 gravities. I understand the importance of starters, he says, and I always make them for 4 liter. Since I use the same yeast strain the majority of the time, I've wondered, how practical is it to maintain a yeast brink such that I can always pull enough yeast for each weekly brew? What would it take for the semi-professional homebrew setup? And if not practical for the weekly brewer, how about for a brew club?
That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
It's just how practical is it?
Can you explain just what a yeast brink is first?
So a brink is, a place that you store yeast. As a professional brewery, there's lots of yeast being produced, and what you do is pump it over to another tank that just is designed for storing your yeast. And then when you brew another batch, you just pump some over to that, tank, or pull some off and dump it into that next tank.
How do you need to maintain that yeast brink? I mean, do you have to circulate the yeast? Does it have to be agitated to help?
Yeah, there's a lot of theories in there. So they did studies on constant stirring, which, that was the thought. It was going to, actually improve, yeast health and all that. And constant stirring does not do so great for yeast, but intermittent stirring. So there's like, X number of, stirring per 24 hours that, happens, and that helps, mitigate hot spots. But if you stir too much, it,
you end up breaking it down.
Well, yeah, I think the yeast tend to use their nutrients up and and degrade faster. So, they're stirred. You can add in oxygen and wort or sugars or things like that. I mean, there's a lot of different things. Temperature control is a big one.
Cooler, normal fermentation temps?
Well, you want to store it as cold as possible without freezing it. The other thing is, a lot of the bigger yeast springs still have load cells on them, so you can tell how much yeast you're pitching by weight.
Yeah, okay.
When you get up to a bigger scale. But, when we're talking homebrew scale, you probably put that on a scale.
Yeah.
And, pitch by weight just based off of the scale. That might be one way to do it. You could have a vessel with a paint stir stick that was, sanitized and had a nice, tight gasket on top that you just stir with, you turn with the handle once a day. Just somebody turns it.
Yeah,
that'd
so it doesn't stratify and die at the bottom.
Right. You end up with these spots where the yeast start breaking down, and it ends up like a hot spot of yeast lysis. Yeah, and I think that could be an issue as well. But I think the bigger thing is, when the reason that a bigger brewery uses a brink is because the cost and handling in growing up yeast is an issue. So, and you're talking at such a large scale. When you're doing homebrew size, you should not be afraid of doing a starter.
That's right.
And there's ways to do it. What I did at home was I would can starter wort, and then it was the sealed, perfect, sterile wort at room temperature that I would just clean the outside with isopropyl, give it a quick flame, pop it open, and pour it in with yeast, and that's it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's quick and easy. The nutrients were already in it. It was already done, and I would make up like 5 gallons at a time. So every time I just need it, I just pour it in, and off you go. So it's quick and easy to do a starter. I don't think you should be avoiding starters. Yeah. But I think the possibility of doing a brink of some kind. The problem is the way you load yeast into a brink is off of these big fermentations, and I would never ever share yeast between homebrewers. A lot of breweries have contaminated yeast.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying.
They don't check their yeast. They don't have a lab. They don't.
Right.
I would not trust them.
And the longer it sits out and the more it's transferred, the more contamination it's going to have. Yeah.
Right. The only brewery I trust for yeast cleanliness is me.
Okay.
Us, and I trust like White Labs and Yeast, and that's it. That's the extent of who we trust.
So when you say it sits out, it gets worse, progressively worse?
Yeah, I mean the contamination builds up.
And can it build up to what? Like, what's the end point? What's the worst that it can get to? Well,
where you have more contamination than yeast, and you end up with a bacterial fermentation. It's a sour beer.
I do trust Russian River.
True.
There you go.
In Sierra Nevada.
This is probably a longer list.
I would trust Sierra Nevada. Yeah. There you go.
All right, here's a question from Sanjay Shah. He said, I have a question for the Brew Strong crew. Does the Mr. Malty pitching rate calculator assume that you add oxygen to the starter wort when making a starter? Thought of this question after reading Jamil's portion of a recent article in Zymergy. In Jamil's section about how to make a starter, he mentioned adding oxygen before pitching the yeast into the starter wort.
The pitching rate calculator has settings for starter with oxygen, stirred. I mean, there's a pull down list where you can pick all those.
Okay. Is that a relatively new addition to the calculator?
No, I've been there since early on.
Oh, okay.
Since like day one. So there you go.
All right, here's one from Austin, another Bible in the form of an email. Dear John and Jamil, been listening to the Beyond podcast for almost a year now, and have almost finished with 2009. Wow. Not listening to the current shows because he's not yet caught up. I'll be bringing my first lager this week.
He'll hear this show in like 2017.
Sometime around.
Good for you.
The next president. Yeah, okay, so I religiously use Jamil's yeast pitching rate calculator for all of my starters, but I don't know how to use that and step up a starter in tandem. Mm-hmm. This is for his first lager that he's brewing this week.
Mm. Oh, so it's probably 6 months ago that he was brewing this first lager. I thought about adding, a stepped starter kind of tab to that calculator, but I've got so much else to do, I just haven't done it. What you can do is you start out with, a given
1 liter,
one vial and 1 liter or whatever, and grow that up to whatever.
Yeah.
And just mess with the numbers, and then you can say, okay, that produces this much. And then you go to your repitching, and you can, go from there, or you can grow from there. And every vial is like 100 to 110 billion cells.
Correct.
So you can say, okay, I've got 330 billion cells from that step. Mm-hmm. That's equal to 3 vials.
Yeah. I find it so much easier just to buy 2 or 3 valves at the start.
Oh, Mr. Moneybags here.
Yeah. Well, but like another $5, $10 on the batch.
Not everyone's hammering royalty checks from brewing classic styles, Palmer.
Oh, well. It should be, darn it.
Yeah. Let me just give a couple more specifics from this guy. He said, here are his specs. I'm following the brewing classic styles to George Bopill's recipe to the T. So he said he'll be pitching into 5.5 gallons of wort that will have a starting gravity of 1055, and he'll be using WLP 800, the Pilsner lager yeast, with a production date of June 2013. That was 3 months before he brewed. How can he obtain the recommended 422 billion yeast cells while only using 1 vial?
With 1 vial, and you're talking about getting to 400 and what?
422.
422. You're gonna have to, with a 3-month-old, you're gonna have to do 2 steps.
Yeah.
Because one of the things is the amount of multiplication you can get from yeast before they pretty much stop is like 3 to 5 range, right? So they can do that number of steps. You have to kind of exponentially figure out how many steps that is, what growth that would be. But so what I would do, given a vial, I would I'd take that vial and I'd probably do a 2-liter starter if you've got 2 liter.
Mm-hmm.
If he has the ability to do 2 liter on a stir plate, or shake it, just shake it every hour. I'm always shaking it every hour, and that helps as well. And that's going to get you about double what you had before. So now instead of 1 vial, you got 2. And from 2 vials, you should be able to reach 422.
Okay, yeah, he actually did say he kind of cheated already and did his own version, but it sounds like he was on the right path. He said he made a 2-liter yeast starter with 1040 wort, pitched the yeast, stayed on a stir plate for 36 hours until he made another 2-liter.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
And there you go. The next one probably should have been 3 or something like that, but yeah, close enough.
All right, here's one from John Breen.
And the fact is, that yeast coming off that starter, that is like, vital and fresh and all this. No matter how good Y Yeast and White Labs are in producing these packaged yeast and how great they were before they went in the package, 3 months down the road, as much as I love all these guys,
right,
it's not as good as when it left the factory.
Right.
And when you make a good starter, when you provide nutrients and all that, it is, within a small amount of exactly as great as it was leaving the factory.
Right.
So there you go. I mean, it's it's a matter of timing and things like that to really get the the maximum reserves into the yeast and things like that. So you're not that far off. So make a starter. They've got great products. Absolutely use those products, but make a starter.
All right, here's one from John Breen. Said, gentlemen, thank you so much for the resource. Being a brewing noob, I'm still getting caught up on all the past episodes, so forgive me if this has been covered. But he was looking through the old episode topics, did not see shows dedicated to oxygen, the good and the bad. He said it would seem like there could be a ton of talk regarding this, like headspace in fermenters and bottles, oxygenating wort, use of O2 caps, purging methods, proper racking techniques, etc. That's not a very specific question.
So that's a show topic suggestion. Eh?
Right. Well, and oxygen in things like starters, I think,
well, time on the stir plate for one.
Yeah, the stir plate, mixes the yeast in with all the nutrients, gives them access to it. You go back to the story of Yorkshire squares.
Okay.
And why, Yorkshire squares will produce more diacetyl is because of the square corners. And it's kind of a dead corner. You don't get a lot of mixing through there.
Okay.
It tends to be, one of the things that happens. And same thing happens in a starter. When the yeast cannot access the nutrients or other compounds that are produced, it's not as efficient. So if you can, keep the yeast mixed so they have access to all the other nutrients that are there,
right?
And then it's also dispersing any byproducts that the yeast are producing,
right?
It actually helps the yeast, it's giving them the optimal opportunity to, take in what they need and get rid of what they don't,
right,
to grow.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that the stir plate does. And it also drives off CO2, which tends to suppress yeast activity.
Right.
It also tends to allow a little more ingress of oxygen because you're mixing that surface layer that oxygen is diffusing through.
Right.
If you keep exchanging, it's like a fish tank. When you have a fish tank, people put in these bubble stones and all that, and they're like, oh, that's adding oxygen to the water. No, it's not. It's just adding very, very little. What it's doing is making the liquid flow up to the top and exchange the surface layer of water.
And that's where most of the diffusion is occurring.
And then it's just naturally diffusing in, and you're constantly refreshing that diffusing layer across the top surface. Same thing happens in a starter. That also depends on how you're sizing your starter vessel. If you get an Erlenmeyer flask, they're wide at the base, they're narrow at the top. If you fill that thing to the top, you've got a narrow surface for diffusion of oxygen and dispelling CO2 and things like that. So really you want to get a big enough Erlenmeyer that you're further down into the barrel, the body of the flask, so you have a larger surface area. You're going to get more oxygen exchange that way.
Right.
So you could do a fuller Erlenmeyer, and you could pump in with like a sterile filtered aquarium pump to bubble stuff in there. But again, the problem being the surface area of just bubbling air in there doesn't do very well. A sintered stone can provide a little bit more, but again, surface area. If you have a nice broad surface area, you're going to get that
surface
that really
exchange. Yeah.
So there you go. I don't know if that really answered, but that was good information.
It wasn't really a question, so there you go.
All right, let's take a short break, and when we come back, we'll wrap up with more of your questions after this.
And now, Northern Brewer presents What If Homebrewers Ruled the World?
Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll follow me, I will lead you into the gallery area. Now, the first piece up for sale today is a Jamil Zainashev original, a bottle of 1997 vintage Evil Twin.
I see.
A bidding for this one-of-a-kind piece will start at £7,000. And if you'll continue to follow me, ladies and gentlemen, I can show you a rather abstract piece from Bay Area brewer Justin Crossley. It's a German Doppelbock entitled Justin's Giant Bock. The brewer's notes here indicate that this beer had excellent mouthfeel.
That's just a crazy dream. Or is it? With Northern Brewer, a thirsty nation can craft its own ale and lager for the greater good of mankind. Northern Brewer, the home of superior customer service and the finest selection of home brewing goods for the future.
Hi, I'm Jamil Zainasheff, and in addition to my work on the Brewing Network, I write the Style Profile column in every issue of Brew Your Own magazine.
Hi, I'm Sean Paxton, and when I'm not prepping for the Homebrewed Chef on the Brewing Network, you can find me writing articles on how to cook with your homebrew for Brew Your Own magazine.
Greetings, cretins. This is John Palmer, and when I'm not writing for Brew Your Own, I'm reading it.
John Palmer, Sean Paxton, Jamil Zainasheff. If you love listening to them on the Brewing Network, you'll love reading their articles, tips, and recipes in the pages of Brew Your Own magazine. Join Jamil, John, and Sean 8 times a year in Brew Your Own. And when you subscribe to BYO on the Brewing Network website, half of your subscription price goes right back to the BN to support great beer and food programming. So sign up for Brew Your Own magazine through the BN website today so you can listen and read your way to better homebrew. Craft Beer and Brewing Magazine is the new go-to source for homebrewing enthusiasts and anyone passionate about craft beer. Each new issue is full of inspiration, recipes, and techniques for homebrewing, cooking and pairing food with beer, and features from craft brewers and the world of craft beer. More than 120 full-color pages of content, quarterly releases, and annual specials. Get practical advice from brewing experts, equipment reviews, great interviews, and much more. There's a new craft beer magazine available right now. Craft Beer and Brewing Magazine on newsstands now. Visit www.beerandbrewing.com. Subscribe now and get your limited edition bottle opener free today. Craft Beer and Brewing Magazine, the new word in craft beer and brewing. The biggest innovation in brewer's yeast in 125 years is here. Yeast that has never been exposed to the environment. See it for yourself at NHC in Grand Rapids. Pure yeast fermentation. White Labs.
Hi, I'm Jason Harris, the proud owner here at Keystone Homebrew Supply. We're thrilled to be entering our 20th year of supplying this great industry, and to show you, the Brewing Network Army, how much we appreciate your support, we're offering you 10% off your first order on our website, KeystoneHomebrew.com. Just use coupon code BNARMY at checkout, and I'll get your order out the same day. My goal at Keystone Homebrew Supply has always been to have a complete supply of everything a brewer could want. When you place your order online or when you come into our store, it's our goal to have everything on your list and more. One aspect of KeystoneHomebrew.com that we're really excited about is the ability to fulfill customers' exact grain bills. Do you hate to wait? Keystone Homebrew Supply can get your precious yeast and hops to you within just one day if you live between Connecticut and Virginia, and within 2 days east of the Mississippi. KeystoneHomebrew.com. Coupon code BNARMY. I'm Jason Harris, and I approve this message.
Learning to brew has never been so disgusting. This is Brew Strong.
All right, we're back. We're talking about tasting rooms. We're talking about
Wall Street.
Wall Street. We're talking about insulting each other's heritages, and we're talking about what else were we talking about?
The Wailing Wall in Jerusalem.
Yeah, so we're essentially insulting Scott. Yeah, there you go.
All right. Well, you want me to read you the question? I mean, I don't know if I might screw it up or something. You
might wail about it. I don't know.
This is from Chris Genever. He said, first off, thanks for all the years of great info. I can brew very good beer and give 90% of the credit to John and Jamal.
Yeah, spell my name correctly, you friggin' douche.
90% of the credit. Huh? I wonder what the other 10% is. Google?
Yeah, it's all you, Scott.
Me?
You are the 10%.
Yeah.
You're more like the 1%er, but hey.
Yeah. Maybe another 1% for JP.
I'd like to see how the other 99% lives, personally. I've heard But I don't,
Right.
I don't know. It must suck. Anyway, he says, I ran into a problem a few weeks ago. I was going to be brewing the next day and was getting things set up when I realized that I was missing a packet of yeast. I often use US-05 rather than 1096 because my preferred store caters less to technical brewers and only carries dry yeast. Long story short, I made a starter rather than under pitch. I know this is frowned upon, but yeast is yeast. If I make a good starter with plenty of oxygen and nutrient, would there be any downside to this?
No, not really. I mean, the thing about dry yeast and not making starters with dry yeast is twofold. One is it's cheaper to just most of the time to just buy more dry yeast
and pitch more
and pitch more that way. The other is that there's so many cells in dry yeast compared to like a tube or a smack pack that when you make a starter, a lot of times people are making like this half-liter or 1-liter starter, and they're putting in 10 billion cells.
Right. There's not much room for them to grow. Not much nutrient for them to grow.
Right. Or they're putting in trillion cells. Then they're not going to do a whole lot of good.
Right.
So you need a pretty big starter to get most dry yeast going. So that's the reason why we talk against doing starters with dry yeast.
Right. It's not you're going to hurt anything. It's just you're not really helping yourself.
Well, and you could hurt it if you provided so little nutrient that they kind of get going and then they kind of peter out and they end up burning more glycogen reserves and then they actually gain at the end. You don't gain any cell growth, and you've just kind of spent what they had stored up before they dried them.
He did say that he was very successful with this fermentation. He said he felt that it went better than those used a proportionate amount of rehydrated yeast. He said he posted this on the forum that he frequents, and he got some serious bashing, most of it in the name of Zainasheff and White.
I'm glad that Zainasheff is used to bash people. There you go.
All right, here is one from Danny. It's not really about starters, but it is about fermentation, so I'll read it. He said, hello, Brew Strong crew. On the last episode of High Gravity Beers Brewing, you mentioned that when brewing a beer above 1082, it is best to dose some oxygen a few hours after fermentation. My question is, when using an air pump with an aeration stone, would the recommendation change?
No, I think you're even more desperate for oxygen than if your first batch was air pump with air stone. I think you're kind of screwed right off the bat, and then so it's even more necessary to. You
don't get the saturation with air that you do with oxygen.
Right. So I think you need to do it again. Hit it again before it looks like it's going to start fermenting. Just give it another dose of oxygen. And what people will tell you is like, I added more oxygen, and I've heard people say this is like, well, if it's not fermenting well, I'll hit it with another dose of oxygen. And then people will take this and they'll do it, and it's like, and it still wouldn't ferment. It's like, well, when you add oxygen, you're slowing the yeast down from getting into fermentation phase. What you're doing is adding more to the growth phase. You're adding oxygen so they don't ferment. And so it's going to take longer for active fermentation to start. That's why you're seeing this lag. You're extending the lag phase. You're like, no, let's grow more. Let's build up our sterols. Let's, do all this stuff. And then we'll ferment. Yeah. So you're going, wait, you're not ready here. Let's add some more. So that's, part of one of the things about adding oxygen. So there you go.
Let's do one more quick one from the chat room. Guest 5170912 said, is leaving the starter on the counter overnight okay? Is then in a temp-controlled environment overkill for a starter? Is a temp-controlled environment overkill for a starter?
No. Well,
it's not overkill.
I mean, it depends on what the counter is at. If the counter at like 200 degrees, the counter at like 32.
No, it's not a hibachi. I think it's just a kitchen counter.
Okay.
One thing you can do is if you leave your starter on the stir plate 2 days, the yeast have eaten up all the sugar in that starter, but there's this continual ingress of oxygen because of it's on the stir plate, they're going to start burning through their glycogen reserves because they've got this oxygen to work with, rather than if that started been pulled off the stir plate, after 12 hours, 24 hours, and capped and let to sit on the counter, they're going to go dormant. They've absorbed the oxygen, they've built up their sterols, they've built up their glycogen reserves, and now they're going to go dormant until you pitch them to a new environment. So I think in that sense, leaving it on the counter overnight is not a big deal.
Right. Well, and a lot of times, and he's saying temperature control, I think, you don't want to, if you're growing lager yeast, you grow them at room temperature. You grow them, in the 70 to 80 degree range, all your starters, and you're fine. You're going to get more growth. You're going to get, and then you slowly transition them over to lager temperature and then pitch that, versus growing them at lager temperature. You're just not going to get as much growth, and there's no reason to grow them at a lower temperature. People talk about, they're going to acclimate and all that. I don't believe that. John, the point you make is very good. And at the end of a starter, letting it sit for 12 to 24 hours actually helps them, build their glycogen reserves. When they run out of, the sugars to eat, then they kind of start, closing down business, and they build up their supplies because they know they're going to have to wait until the next thing.
Right.
So giving them that point, but like John's saying, don't continue to stir them, because that's going to actually burn through their reserves. So yeah, all right. So yeah, not a problem temperature wise. There you go. All right, let's take a short break. When we come back, we will wrap up. Oh, we're done?
Yes, sir.
We've done 3 breaks?
Yep.
Oh, we have? Yep. Oh, Jesus Christ, you're right. God, who's been drinking during this show?
Well, we will be right back, but just, in a few weeks.
We'll be back in a few weeks. Yeah. No, I had fun doing these shows.
Me too.
I'm glad you'd be here, John.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the AHA rally at Heretic. That's going to be a ball.
There you go, April 26th. And you can get to AHA, our Homebrew Association.org, whatever it is. And sign up right there at the AHA rally at Heretic.
Mm-hmm.
Come on out. If you're an AHA member, it's free.
Yeah.
You can't beat it.
Google it, find it. We'll be there.
Lots of good stuff, and it'll be a blast. I'm looking forward to it. And if you enjoy this show, make sure to check out our fine sponsors. Check out Blickman Engineering, Adam and Eve.
Right.
Tell them how much you enjoy that they sponsor the show. Go to the Brewing Network /store. Buy some goodies. Get a cool shirt. And, wear it to the AHA rally. Till then, everybody, brew strong.
Brew strong.